Who are some people you know personally, or otherwise, who ruined their own lives, and how? Meth. Less than 6 months between getting into it and the police pulling his body out of river. A buddy from high school blew through a stop sign and hit a couple of motorcyclists, killing them both. He didn't stop to render aid and fled the scene. He was busted for vehicular manslaughter and spent 12 years in prison. He's lucky he can work for his dad, because where he lives now is not kind to felons trying to rehabilitate. Took out a mortgage on his house and leveraged all his other assets to go all in on Luna coin. It worked beautifully until it didn't. I helped an old friend of my mother-in-law for some time. She was in recovery for some years. She had drank so heavily for so long she developed a neurological disorder which left her debilitated. She gradually lost her balance, her motor skills and coordination, and is now hospitalized and unable to care for herself. She is almost a decade younger than me and her life of independence is over. She will remain bedridden and rely on others for her most basic needs for the remaining years of her life. This is neither far-fetched nor the worst-case scenario. People die from addiction every day. Edited. Staying in bad relationships, doubling down and marrying and having children. Now they have the same relationship problems that they had 10 years ago, but with children involved. Friend's daughter called in multiple bomb threats to a local high school. She got caught and convicted. She was 18 at the time. So adult record. Edit. This was post 9/11 and didn't happen in the US. From what I understand, she didn't like a teacher and was having issues. Don't know the details. It was dozens of threats over the course of months. The police responses cost several million and the whole community felt terrorized. She pled guilty and got a 3-month conditional sentence. I knew a few folks in college who got hooked on meth and never pulled themselves out of it. But the funnier story is a guy the first knew in college who stayed in line all night to buy a PS2 which caused him to totally blow off a big lab report which ultimately meant he had to switch his major. Someone in our friend group keeps having kids with people and then leaving. Fucking him financially because of child support. He can't hold any jobs. And has stolen from friends. Right now he's crashing on one of my friend's couches. I dunno why they are allowing him to stay there. A friend from HS won $1,000 a week for life. Never went to college. Never held down a long-term job. Always worried some lady is trying to take his money by getting pregnant or stealing it through marriage. Has had a very mediocre life without much progression or new relationships. The rest of the friend group used to think he was the luckiest guy alive. Now we all just try to keep his spirits up when we get together and keep our advice to ourselves. He is aware of the solutions to his problems at a 10-mile view, but the $1,000 week has sapped his will to execute any self-improvement plan. A spoiled kid from a well-off family in a nearby small town, so big fish in little pond, around age 20 was having a party at his house. He jokingly pulled an old antique handgun out from a drawer and aimed it at a friend of his, also maybe around 20 years old. You can guess what happened next. I dated someone who became a raging alcoholic at the age of 44. Lost his license, his relationship, his car, his job and his son. Dude had a great life and threw it all away for freaking booze. I got to keep his son as my own, so I got the better end of the deal. I know someone with 8 kids by 7 different guys. All boys. And she still wants a girl. The kids call every new guy dad. I'm pretty sure she had 7 kids by the time she was 25. She's in her 30s now. She'll never end up with a decent guy. Poor kids. They all have goofy names that rhyme. I'm talking names that nobody else on the planet has. I work in project management for construction. I have seen many apprentices fall into the pit of alcohol-drug addiction within the first couple of years of them being on the job and losing everything. Thankfully, it tends to happen earlier in their life. So some of them are able to recover and bounce back. Others aren't so lucky. Another is my best friend in high school. He became a drug dealer and dropped out before graduating. He eventually got caught on camera selling a couple of kilograms of cocaine to an informant and served several years in prison. Knew a girl in high school and fell out of touch aside from seeing her occasional Facebook post. We had come from a relatively affluent town outside of Charleston, but drugs were widely available. One day on Facebook, I saw the young woman was in the hospital getting her arm amputated. She had fallen into hard drugs. The next post I saw was her bragging how her dope dealer visited her in the hospital and helped her shoot up. My heart broke to see something as disastrous as having your arm amputated wasn't enough for her to get the help she needed. I'd say I hope she is doing better. But I don't think she is. I know a guy who killed a girl in a hit and run. Then went back out that night. Walked around town like nothing happened for like 6 months before his friend turned him in. And now he'll be in prison for like 8 years. Don't drink and drive. My auntie and one of her daughters. They live in a cycle of violence. My auntie got married to a druggy violent man. Had 4 kids. Every single one today deals with trauma. One of her daughters ended up getting in the same trap as her mother. Had 3 kids all from different fathers. The dads were all involved in crime drugs. She ended up getting killed by one of the fathers. She was just 32. Her kids now are dealing with the trauma of her loss. Her oldest child was 13 when she died. We're pretty distant, but I feel a lot for them. I was a kid when this happened, but a guy in town shot himself in the stomach because he'd left his wife for his mistress, who'd then chickened out on leaving her husband. What made it super bizarre and big news was that he was the dare officer at the local elementary school, where she was the principal. He survived, and both were run out of town. Weed wasn't enough anymore when he went to college, so he and a buddy went to a doctor known to write scripts for Xanax and Oxy. Got hooked on Oxy. His parents spent thousands on exploratory surgery to find the pain issue he convinced them he had. Then rehab to get him clean. Then he heard fentanyl was out there and stronger than heroin, and he found some and died. My wife kept someone who attached themselves to her as the best friend. We moved closer to them and everything. Then things unraveled. This friend started off as a bit eccentric, then controlling, then an obvious need to be the center of all attention, then was asked to leave the house. Turned out she was overemphasizing her kids' illnesses, raised thousands to cure him, and ended up in court for scamming people to pay for a holiday she could already afford just for the attention. Ruined her and her family's lives just to be, as the term is now, the main character. My sister keeps having kids with all the deadbeats she gets engaged to. Can't keep a job. Always bumming off friends and family to fund her hobbies while struggling to be a single mother. A friend of mine thought that he won't get addicted to cocaine. Last time I saw him was a photo of him on his obituary. Cousin who got into heroin and then later fent. Crashed an old car that was gifted to him 2 months after being given it and stole from the family. So most of the family doesn't talk to him anymore. He comes around every few months asking for money now. Friend could not stop drinking to his detriment. Lost his first family. Multiple jobs. Another relationship that was great for him. Nope. He does not have a drinking problem. He also lives in the past since all the good stuff in his life happened 20+ years ago and he cannot stop talking about it.